Well, welcome to Mary Walter Radio, the live cast. Oh, let me get rid of that music there for you. Okay, there we go. I still hear it though. I'm hearing it from somewhere. Anyway, welcome. So I apologize for being late. We have a new camera. The IT department went out and spent my money and has put up, a bunch of a bunch of lights and cameras and action, and off we went to the races. And so I'm here with all of this going on, and I don't know. Can you still hear the music playing?
Yes.
Why is the music still playing? Oh, there it is. That's why. Okay, now I know why the music was still playing. So anyway, so we slid into Lake Home at 7:15. Finally got it up. Almost had to call it. Weren't gonna do it. And poor Ford, that handsome man you see right there, even though I went to Miami. I was like, I'm texting like, I don't know if we're going to make this happen. But the IT department did it at the last minute, and it was very simple. When in doubt, unplug the camera and plug it back in again. So that's what the problem was. So anyway, I don't know if I'm late enough. May look a little dark. Let's see. We're playing with the lighting. Anyway, Ford O'Connell, welcome so much to Mary Walter Radio. So good to meet you. I meet you kind of like we can actually talk to each other.
Yeah, look, this is great. Thank you for having me on. By the way, I am only wearing the Miami because I am from Florida. I went to Duke in Virginia. So, don't hold it against me. It's just a hometown thing.
Well, the whole Duke thing's not much better, just saying. So just a little background. So Ford and I are on Newsmax, often, again, opposite, like both at the same time on the same panel. But we've never gotten to actually talk to each other outside of that. So I thought, wow, what fun to have him on the podcast, because he is an attorney, boo hiss, and he is a GOP operative. And there's always so much going on to just talk about. And that's what we do here. And one thing we do, as I told you, Ford, is we have a great group, a great audience. And by the way, if you're over on Rumble, please, thank you. And they like to ask a lot of questions, and they get super involved. So it's one of the few, I guess, podcasts where they get to interview guests in a way. Do you know what I mean? Where they get to ask you questions. So that's what we're going to do. If that's
They're
okay.
Driving the train. Sounds good to me.
All right, great. So by the way, you can follow Ford on X at Ford O'Connell, 2 N's, 2 L's, no apostrophe. Super easy to find him. So please do that. Is there anywhere else that people can find you?
I primarily use X. I just think X is the best way to go. There's also Facebook at Ford O'Connell, a lot of other things,
Okay.
but just I would go with X.
Okay, great. All right. And just a quick programming note, tomorrow at 4:15 in the afternoon, I will be on Newswire on N2 on Newsmax, which is on YouTube. So just go to YouTube and go for Newsmax N2, and it'll be there. Thursday at 7:00 in the morning, I will be up on I'll be on Wake Up America on Newsmax, and then 11:35 on National Report, I will be on Newsmax, and then Saturday at 11:30, I'll be on Newsmax with Rita Cosby. Next week, all week except for Christmas Day, I will be on Sirius XM Patriot Channel 125 on Breitbart News Daily from 6 to 9 a.m. And then from noon to 3, I'm on Newsmax Radio in for Rob Carson. His home station is WCBM. So I'll post it everywhere, post it on X, I post it everywhere on my schedule. But that is my schedule on radio all of next week. And then my TV schedule this week, but I will post it. Ford, do you have anything coming up you would like to plug?
Well, I think I'm going to be on Wake Up America about an hour after you on Thursday. But my schedule is so fluid, but it's usually Newsmax or Fox Business once or twice a day. It just depends on the timing.
So how do you get the 8 o'clock hit and I get the 7 a.m. hit? How does that happen?
Because I'm really good friends with Mark Lauder, and I have been for many, many years. People don't know the operatives, we're all like 2 degrees of separation. I mean, I've known Mark all the way back to 2008 when he was running Indiana on the McCain campaign, and I was in the headquarters in Arlington. So you'd be surprised how we all know each other.
Oh, well, he lives about 10 minutes from me.
He's a good man.
And we never get together. Never. Well, especially it's hard this time of year, but he's about 10, maybe 15 minutes, not even 15 minutes away, depending on traffic. There's all backgrounds. He's good. So, all right. So, the first thing we do is we see who's here. So let's see who is here. Scott is here. Scott over on Rumble. Appreciate it. While Bill is over on Rumble as well. Suze is here. I hope you got the vertical instead of the horizontal that you hate so much over on YouTube. I'm trying to teach everybody how to pick because it's an option now. It's a lot of people wind up with the vertical and hate it. Sorry. Rebecca is here. Merry Christmas, or can we say Merry Christmas? Do you know, like in the Midwest and even like in Virginia, there's no difference between Mary and Merry. It's very weird.
It's regional vernacular. At least they're saying Christmas. Let's just put it that way.
Good point. Well, this audience, Christmas or Hanukkah, I don't care which one because you wish me happy Hanukkah, I will say thank you. Right?
I'm with you. It's a Judeo-Christian society.
Yeah, but it's not like they're telling me like I'm not offended. It's not like they're telling me to go screw myself, right? They're wishing me something nice. Oreo is in the house. Squeaky is here. Let's see who else is here. Now Tax USA is here saying Merry Christmas to everyone. Squeaky is very happy with the lighting. Thank you, Squeaky. The IT department did a lot of work on that. They know the IT department because there's always something going wrong. Patrick, President Trump is right on Rob Reiner. We'll get to that. Art. Do I have to pay $5 to watch tonight like that poor sap last week? IT guy sent me an email saying I have to pay the IT guy retirement fund fee and I want an audience with the Queen. I have to have $50 before I can even get that $5 off of Rumble. So I'm at like $1.30 now, $5.30 now. So it's going to be a really long time before I ever see that $5. So, but please don't send me money. It's not what I'm looking for. Let's see. Now text, let's get ready to rumble. Yes. As a GOP operative, what about the 2026 GOP? And are they working to kill the MAGA American Republican brand? That's a great question to start off with, Ford.
Well, I don't think it's a very good idea to kill the MAGA brand because essentially the old guard Republicans, that's not where America's at now. And certainly not where Main Street and the swing states are. They're about America first. I will say this, what's going to be tough in 2026 midterms is being able to get those low propensity Trump voters to turn out in the swing districts that are going to decide the midterms and control the House of Representatives. And I think what people need to know is that if Republicans don't hold the House of Representatives, it's going to be impeachment, and all the great gains are going to come to a grinding halt. That is very true. But so talking about the Republicans, they don't stick together. Number one, what happened? What was it, Indiana with the redistricting? They snatched defeat from the jaws of victory at every turn. And I admire that they want to do the right thing and they play by the rules. But when your opponent is not playing by the rules and they keep beating you, maybe it's time to play their game. It's like playing, Chutes and Ladders with a toddler. You're never going to win with the rules that they make up. So sometimes you have to beat them at their own game if you're a really cruel person. But as an adult, you get the analogy. Totally get the analogy. And then we're 20 years behind in redistricting. And I will tell you, in my home state of Florida, Ron DeSantis was pushing for a much tougher map. Hopefully Florida will wind up redistricting and getting that map. But I couldn't believe the Senate president at the time, Wilton Simpson, who's now the agricultural commissioner, was saying we should leave seats for the Democrats. And everyone in Tallahassee was saying, do you think the Democrats would ever do this if the shoe was on the other foot? And the answer was, hell no, they wouldn't do it. But it's not just Indiana. You're talking about Missouri. You're talking about Florida. I mean, Texas came through, but that was going to be obvious by the common cause ruling at the Supreme Court. If you're going to hold the House, it's not only turning out those low propensity Trump voters, it's about winning the redistricting war. And if you win the war properly, the Republicans are actually going to gain or net 12 seats. So it's a big chunk of seats, particularly when you consider the Republicans basically at the swing seats, maybe there's 17, 18 House seats. All they have to do is win 8 to keep the majority. Yeah. And they're going to blow it. They're going to blow it, right? They are, because they have no backbone. And, that's the one thing Donald Trump taught them all is you got to have a backbone. Stop being scared of your own shadow and stop listening to the legacy media. Do what's right by your constituents. But somehow they don't seem to understand that. And to your point, play by Queensberry rules of British boxing. And it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Well, this is why I'm not a registered Republican, because I don't sign up for to play for a team that doesn't fight, doesn't want to win. Why should I sign up for them?
And it's a great thing about Trump. I figured that after 2016, they would gain a little bit more of a backbone, but then they don't seem to understand the great rule of Nancy Pelosi. And that is, and I cannot believe I'm going to say something nice about Nancy Pelosi, but she taught everyone to walk in lockstep, even when they had disagreements when it came to messaging. You rarely hear a Democrat outside of John Fetterman saying, I just don't think that's a good idea. We should probably do what's in the best interest of our constituents rather than what's in the best interest of the Democrats keeping power.
Yep, I will. I said for years that I wanted, those little rubber, like wristbands everybody had that said, "What would Jesus do?" WWDG, what would WWJD? I wanted one that said WWND. What would Nancy do? And mail it to every single Republican in Congress and put it on, and every morning look at it, and then do that.
Well, it's funny you say that. I'm going to even bolster that claim further. One time I was in a surrogacy meeting in the White House in the Roosevelt Room, and President Trump sat down. He said, I respect Nancy Pelosi for all the bad things I say. She basically keeps her pimp hand strong, in the sense that he didn't say pimp hand, but he came real close. What he was saying is they all march in the same direction, even when they have disagreements, because they see the bigger war rather than just the battle in front of them.
Exactly. 100. And he's been trying super hard to drag them along, but they just very stubbornly want to stick to what they've done all along. And the same old, same old. And I fear that when Trump's gone, when he's no longer gone, I don't know if a JD Vance can hold it together the way Trump has so far. I don't know if JD Vance can pull them the way Trump has so far. They're learning nothing. Some of them have learned from Trump, but a lot of them are learning nothing from him. And I fear for what happens after 2028. I really, really do.
I couldn't agree with you more, because the one thing about Trump, like him or don't like him, he is the marketer in chief, and he's able to change the narrative on a dime when it's going against his administration of the Republican Party. And they don't seem to understand that none of them has the ability to do that, because they don't have the name ID and the ability to control the legacy media in the way that he does. And that includes after having ABC, NBC, CBS, the networks give him 90% negative coverage. I don't think the Unabomber got coverage that bad.
It's very true. Rebecca says Republicans stick together about as well as oil and water. If they want a snowball's chance in hell at winning the midterms, they had better get the dust off their work boots. Ron says, how do we get any conservative brand running in New Jersey?
That's the tough one. I mean, you're only going to get it in certain areas. That's the whole problem with New Jersey. I spent some time in New Jersey, about 10, 15 years ago, and I will tell you, there's people there that are, there, but you're 40% of the vote. So you have to really work together on very small things and hope that it continues to move forward. I'll give you a great example of that. My home state of Florida, I want to say about 2008, the voter registration statewide was about plus 800,000 for Democrats. Now it's plus 1.5 million for Republicans. Essentially, and remember, we get a lot of new transient people. New Jersey has some, diehards, but they also have a lot of transient people. And
people
100% come from other places, and then they forget why they came to New Jersey or why they came to Florida to improve their life, and then they start voting for the same bunk that destroys Chicago, Illinois.
They're locusts. I am an inmate in the People's Socialist Republic of New Jersey, and I'm old enough to remember when this state was red, and Chris Christie, and it was on its way to becoming purple. But as New York empties out with each thing that they vote for, that they then realize they hate and is making their life crazy, they move to New Jersey and they're like, it's beautiful. Oh my God, I got a backyard. I got a garage. It's awesome here. It's fantastic. But you know what? I got to go back to Brooklyn for my doctors. And they love it here. But then they vote for the same thing that they just left. But I'm a Democrat. I know, but I can't help it. But that's just the way we vote. And I'm like, you moved out of New York for obvious reasons. COVID, they came in droves and never left. And when Mamdani gets in, they're going to do it again, but they come here and they vote for the same crap. They are absolute locusts. They're going to turn New Jersey, and they're well on their way into turning New Jersey into a crap hole. And then they'll move on to North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Tennessee. They just go to the next fertile ground. and do the same thing there. It's a fascinating phenomenon how they don't connect their vote to the outcome.
And that's exactly right. What happened is a lot of, Republicans, conservatives, libertarians left to go to the southeast and southwest of the United States. And now everyone's like, gee, these are the great places to live. And to your point, they don't connect it to the policy. See, down south, what we call it a boll weevil, because it's the boll weevil that destroys the cotton crop. So it's just like locusts. You're correct. We just use boll weevil down south.
Exactly. All right. So Gregory here over on Rumble, thank you for being on Rumble, says President Trump will address the nation tomorrow night. What will be his topic of choice? I think we know what he's going to talk about, right? The initial one is about the troops that were killed in Syria, right?
He's going to talk about that, but he's also going to remind people of the accomplishments that are going forward. I think one of the things that you're watching the White House remind people of is sort of, and you hear it in the talking point now, Joe Biden was taking $3,000 out of your household income each year. I put $1,000 back in, reminding people sort of a mini state of the nation. Here are the Trump accomplishments. Obviously, the point about the troops, because in the morning, he's going to have the dignified return, which is really a sad but impressive thing that I'm glad that we do for our troops.
Yeah, no, I do too. And he doesn't check his watch at them. Let's see. Along those lines, because one thing you'll find out, it's just like very ADD as people ask questions and we go from topic to topic, we kind of hop around a little bit. So you'll often see me go, okay. Do you think as he does that, as he tries to focus on affordability, and this is what I'm doing, do you think that everyone's saying from the administration that next year, when the big, beautiful bill kicks in, that things are going to turn around? Do you agree with that? Is the economy going to be different a year from now?
It will be different. The question is, will it kick in fast enough for the midterm elections? And I think one of the things that you're watching in this affordability argument, it's a little bit of a narrative. The Democrats have been mouthing this word with no policy. What the Trump administration is trying to do in terms of winning that narrative, okay, is to move the goalposts and remind people that it's the Biden administration that broke it and it's the Trump administration that's fixing it, and things are improving along the way. I think one of the best ways that they relate that, particularly to people in the swing districts and, what we'll say outside of the Northeast cities, is explaining the cost of gasoline, because it touches 80, 90% of everything you do, whether it's a physical item at a bodega or a service industry. So I think that when you see oil at $55 a barrel, which it is right now, give or take, that's kind of impressive. I think that's why, you're seeing this unleashing of American energy. They've actually improved production 1 million barrels a day, but those tax cuts are going to have to kick in. I think that's why he's so frustrated with Jerome Powell, because for the first time in my life that we really see it up close is you're seeing the Fed chairs really playing politics. And that's why you hear about Warsh, you hear about Kevin Hassett possibly taking over, because what Trump's politics align with what is best for middle America. What do I mean by that? When the interest rates go down, mortgages come down, car loans come down. That is an important point. And it's something that Jerome Powell and the mainstream media don't seem to understand. They go, well, that would be good for Trump. I go, that's also good for America.
Yeah. Because Kevin Hassett is the new Fed chair, I just always see the scientist from the Muppets every time I see him.
He's a Swarthmore College guy. He's a brainiac guy. I got your point.
He's very smart.
And the other guy, I know exactly what you're talking about.
But he has a big smile on his face all the time. And that professor always has a big smile. Like he's always very happy. And Beaker's the one who always looks sad and scared. And so he just reminds me with the smile and the glasses. I'm like, wow, it's the scientist. Did he have a name? Beaker was the other guy, but what was the scientist? I don't know what the scientist's name was. All right. Oreo says, Miami just voted in a Democratic mayor. That is scary. What do you think of that?
This is once again the point that I began with, and that is that people aren't turning out on the Republican side. I mean, they should not lose. I mean, when you look at how much she got, the Democratic nominee and candidate, in terms of votes, there's no way she should have won. It's not that she won, it's that everyone else didn't show up.
Yep. Yeah. I agree. It's the whole Republic, the issue on the right goes very deep. It runs deep. People just don't get off their butts and vote, which is, I don't understand. Now Tax USA says MAGA is the bold stroke that got Trump elected. I fear that Trump is being betrayed. He should focus on MAGA rallies all next year. Call in all the heavy hitters like Pressler and conservative media.
That's exactly what he is going to do. And I've made that point very clear that he's going to campaign like it's 2024. And he understands that people need to be fired up and they need to understand what the stakes of the election are. And it's not about your individual Congress person. It's about whether or not you believe the America First agenda should still be the guiding light of America. That's the entire, crux of the 2026 election. So he understands that. That's why I think you're going to see this national address tomorrow night. It's why you're going to see him start barnstorming. It's why he's starting in Pennsylvania, because if you can turn Pennsylvania voters in your direction just because of how historically Arctic blue they've been, but yet Union Trump supporters, that's going to be sort of the key to a lot of the other places, particularly in North Carolina and Georgia.
Yeah. Let's see. Ron says, not the New Jersey voters, but those in office that don't work in New Jersey, let alone together.
I'm not sure that a lot of people actually live in the state that they represent these days. I'm really getting a little concerned about that. I mean, you laugh. I could name several on the Republican side, but there are a lot more apparently on the Democratic side, including, I guess, Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, apparently lives in Virginia.
Yeah, which is fine. She can do that. It's no big deal. If you're a Republican, it would be a problem. This is what drives me crazy. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about one of the things that I want to talk. And I know, let me just get through some of these comments, and then I want to talk about Letitia James. I want to say there. Art says JD will be the first presidential nominee since McCain that is ex-military to run. Unlike McCain, he can dominate anyone in a debate. That is very true. Scott says, Vice President Vance is learning right now from President Trump. We don't really get to see how great of a job he can do as president until he is president, but he will if he gets it, in my humble opinion. I agree with that. And Hermit Sal is weighing in and says hello. So let's talk about Letitia James. And let's talk about James Comey. Apparently a judge now has ordered the evidence in the James Comey case to be destroyed. The evidence, did you see that? What is going on? Like, why would they, and the comments that I saw were like, well, why did they have it in the Eastern District of Virginia instead of Florida? Like why do Republicans play it so stupid? Why?
I think that's a great point about why did they not go venue shopping and go to a venue that's actually going to give this a fair hearing. And Florida's proven, at least over the last several years, to be the state that gives the best hearing to both sides. That said, this was a situation when it came to Comey. Comey didn't win. They didn't say Comey was not guilty. What they said is the process of the prosecutor, Lindsay Halligan, she was unable to bring that charge because the acting time as interim attorney general or district attorney for Eastern District of Virginia had run. And the craziest part is with Letitia James, they true billed, which means they said, okay, you can go to trial the first time. And then they brought the same claim again with what we call the right indemnified lawyer. And then they said, no. I mean, that's the entire problem I have. Justice is not being served here. What they are doing is short-circuiting the process. And in this case, Lindsay Halligan and the Trump administration fell prey to that.
Yeah. And I look at Comey, they couldn't even get an indictment the second time.
Well, that's why you shouldn't be in Virginia now, should you? I mean, as we said, talk about New Jersey, at the rate the federal government's growing, or when a Democrat gets back in, if you think New Jersey's Arctic blue, you haven't even seen anything yet, because the more the federal government grows, the bluer Virginia is going to become. And I mean, that's the entire same with Southern Maryland. These are places that were not traditionally blue. But once again, when the federal teat comes down, it's amazing how people like to never get off of that dole.
Yeah. And Suze makes a good point here. She says, that's huge in New Jersey. Are the leaders from New Jersey, or do they just know they could win there? And that's a great point, because Mikey Sherrill, she's a helicopter pilot. She is from Virginia, but she ran in New Jersey. And Spanberger is from New Jersey and ran in Virginia. And Democrats do this, and Republicans, again, can't figure this game out, or surprised every time it happens, which is, I want to run a boot camp for Republicans. Seriously, like, give me 3 days with them in a locked building. I might have to deprive them of some food and water and bathroom breaks, but I think I can break them, and they can learn how to play the game, because not that hard. Oh, there's a cat in here. It's not that hard. You know, what the Democrats do, and they started it with Obama. They pick someone who nobody's heard of, and they it's a very vanilla, right? Not a lot of background. Obama, when he was a senator, liberals like, who? He was senator for one term, right? He didn't vote on a lot of stuff, like very vanilla. Same thing with Mikey Sherrill. She missed 40% of the votes in Congress. She didn't have much of a record. Same thing with Spanberger, right? Like they're very vanilla. AOC was a bartender, and they must put them through some kind of camp. Kamala Harris, they're all very pliable, right? They're all very malleable, and they will do or say whatever they need to do or say, or whatever they're told to do or say in order to win. They keep them away from the spotlight, and they have a huge machine around them that builds this persona and feeds it to the media. And it works every single time. How do Republicans not see this? It's been going on since Obama.
It has. You're 100% right. I don't even have much to add to it other than the fact that when it came to Kamala Harris, a long time ago, real quick story, when I was in the district attorney's office in Los Angeles, my former boss ran against Kamala Harris. Now, statewide for Attorney General of California, the Republican should lose by 25 points. He lost by less than 0.5%. That's how bad she was as a candidate. And it was the only race she's actually ever won. Every other time, she's basically either been grandfathered in, appointed, whatever it may be, and then when she ran the second time, technically she's the incumbent. If you go back and look at her record, you'll realize exactly how bad a candidate she is. Now, to your point with Spanberger and Sherrill, I mean, Sherrill was a terrible candidate, but to your point, loose lips sink ships. They stayed quiet about all of her flaws. Nobody said anything. And when it came to Spanberger, she ran against a weaker candidate, but she also just kept not taking the bait on issues that would have sunk her.
Yep, I know. It's unbelievable. And nobody watches the debates. Everybody's like, well, it came out in the debates. I'm like, who? Nobody's. They're at 6:00 when everybody's serving dinner. Kids are going out. This is happening. That's happening because the bubble, Washington, D.C. is a bubble, and they have no clue what life is like outside of that bubble. They truly don't. This is why I think they should. Trump had the right idea, put the Department of Agriculture, I don't know, in farm country, put the interior in the interior, things like that to get this DC concentrated bubble social experiment we got going on there and get rid of it and move these people out. It has to be done. And
even when they are watching debates, let's say we're going to a presidential debate, for example, what will happen is the spin that comes out afterwards is all that matters because you're setting down a narrative about an event that no one really saw, or maybe at least when they were in the fall, football was competing against it, so the men weren't watching it. And to your point, women are, whether they watch football or not, they're not watching that either. And then what happens is, a friend told you, or I turned on ABC in the morning with the weather and the traffic, and here we go. They've defined the narrative for you for an event that no one ever saw. That's why I always say that, how do I know that if a tree falls in the forest, whether or not it makes a sound? Because if no one in your office in Congress saw it on C-SPAN, it never happened.
Yeah. Well, my husband says he knows if a tree made a sound in a forest, if it falls in the forest, just because I told him. So,
good man.
Now Tag says one suggestion for campaign reform: donations can only come from citizens residing in that state. Kick out the carpetbaggers.
That's the state rule. The key is the federal rule. How are you going to get that through? We're going to get that through Congress. We can't even get post offices named for Congress, even for people we agree on. I mean, look, that makes sense. There should be a residency requirement, not like Nevada where it's only 30 days. It should be an actual residency requirement. But look, that makes sense. But common sense doesn't live anywhere near Washington, D.C. and the federal government.
It's not so common anymore. Now Tag says sooner or later we have to repeal the 17th Amendment and put the power back to the states. Let's all right. I want to go down since I want to get to see these other topics. I had a whole bunch of topics I want to talk to you about. We just blew through half an hour. It goes fast. I'm telling you, it goes fast. So Donald Trump's comments about Rob Reiner. He basically said that Reiner's death was reportedly due to the anger he caused others through a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump. And when he was asked about it, and he went on, and it was just not nice. And I'm sure we've all seen it by now. He was asked about this, and he stands by it, and he doubled down. He said, I wasn't a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. I love President Trump. I think he's doing a great job, but every now and then he steps on the rake. And I think he stepped on the rake in this one. What do you think?
Well, I think two things. I think the media honed in on that point, trying to see if anyone would be dissuaded from supporting Trump. One bad post, you're going to run from Trump. And no, they play this game over and over. Look, this is a terrible situation. No one wants to see that happen. At the same time, though, two things can be true. The other half of it is he's absolutely right that Rob Reiner was way too Trump obsessed. And I mean, to a point that when he'd go on TV or do media appearances, he looked unhinged as pretty much anyone I'd ever seen. In his case, it was almost like Trump derangement syndrome was terminal. You could separate the murder from Rob Reiner's situation and how, I mean, the only guy I could think of goes even more bonkers than Rob Reiner is probably Robert De Niro.
He's he's like a chihuahua. He's a very angry little man. But the thing, yes, two things can be true. I just wish at the end of it, he said, that being said, I don't like him. However, I don't wish ill on him. And I think what happened is a horrific tragedy. And I feel so sorry for the family. But he didn't.
There's always better ways to do things. But I think what happens is I think he doubled down because people started doubting it. And that's the one thing out there. And he'll tell you this when it comes to narratives and messaging, which is truly sad in today's politics. You can't ever say, I'm sorry, or I would have done it a different way, because if you do,
that's true.
Keep drawing blood.
Yeah. Now Text USA says, on Reiner and Trump, one step forward, two steps back. Bad move. Chad Prather said, not very Christian. God is the judge, not Trump.
I don't think we'll be talking about Rob Reiner in about 2 days. I mean, there'll be a trial. We'll follow it. It may be the biggest trial out in Brentwood since OJ. But beyond that, it's not something that's going to change someone's vote in the midterms.
Yeah, you're right. Fox News Digital reviewed emails between the FBI and the DOJ officials in the months leading up to the August 22nd, 2022 raid on Mar-a-Lago. And they found that FBI officials expressed concerns about a lack of probable cause to execute the search warrant. An FBI official serving as an assistant special agent in charge wrote to another FBI official, Anthony Reidinger, and said, very little has been developed relating to who might be culpable for mishandling the documents. From the interviews, WFO has gathered information suggesting that there may be additional boxes, presumably of the same type as were sent back to NARA in January at Mar-a-Lago. WFO, what is WFO? Do you know?
No, I don't.
Okay, I don't know what that is. WFO has been drafting a search warrant affidavit related to these potential boxes, but has some concerns that the information is single source, has not been corroborated, and may be dated. DOJ CES opines, however, that the SWs meet the probable cause standard. Even as we continue down the path towards a search warrant, so the search warrants meet the probable cause standard. Even as we continue down the path towards a search warrant, WFO believes that a reasonable conversation with the former president's attorney, stating that the FBI and DOJ are already in a search warrant and have developed information that there are more documents at Mar-a-Lago, ought not to be discounted. So they go on and say that they have doubts about this whole thing. Like, I don't think there's anything here. Weeks later, an FBI agent writes in an email stating, we haven't generated any new facts, but keep being given draft after draft after draft. Absent a witness coming forward with recent information about classified on site, at what point is it fair to table this? It is time consuming for the team and not productive if there are no new facts supporting probable cause. The FBI Washington Field Office, WFO, Washington Field Office, did not believe and has articulated to DOJ CES that we've established probable cause. So they felt there was no probable cause, but the DOJ forced them to go forward to find probable cause to go forward with this search warrant. So, what are we to make of this? And this is all great, and we all know this, that this, these things went back and forth, and we know that there was pressure from Biden's. Oh, how's that for a slip? From Biden's DOJ to push forward for this raid on Mar-a-Lago. So this is Biden's DOJ, right? So Christopher Wray pushed for this, right? It was the DOJ pushed for this. Okay, so we know that this was happened. We know this is probably funky. We know this is probably illegal at to a certain, maybe a little shady at best. No one's going to be held accountable, though, right?
No, they're not. And that's the sad part here. Democrats constantly talk about the threats to democracy, except what we see over and over is it's the deep state, which is primarily Democratic, and Democrats in Washington who continue to violate their own rules. This was a deep state hit job. The whole idea was to stop Trump from running for president because they knew if he got back in there and could run for president, that he was going to win. And not only did they violate his rights, that of a former president, when they could have solved this 75 different ways to Sunday. God knows how many people, including in Washington, have classified information underneath their bed, and they have no right to actually have it. But they also tried to throw him in jail on a phony charge in New York, and then they tried to bankrupt him in New York State as well with a charge that they've never used against anyone. And, might I add, throw him off the ballot. It's like we have short-term memory. And they talk about threats to democracy, and they talk about Hitler. And what are they acting like? The very thing, projecting onto you exactly what they're doing. And they did it every single time on almost every single issue. And from there, I would also go to the border and say, you could do all of this with no new laws. You chose not to do it because you want to have a Trojan horse for socialism and undermine Western values and national sovereignty.
100%. Very well said. Oh, Mike McVie. Is this the Mike McVie I know? Is this my friend, Mike McVie? Because a couple Mike McVies. Is this my friend? He said WFO, Washington Field Office. Yes. It's the same probable cause that they use as an excuse to search your luggage at the airport without your permission or consent.
The issue there, though, see, airports are different. It's where you're standing in the airport because at some point that becomes federal land. And at that point, it's like a post office. You don't necessarily have the right to, assert your rights in that case.
Yeah, that's interesting. I always wanted to put something funny like in my luggage just for the hell of it, because they find funny stuff. Now Tax USA says Harmeet Dillon should be protecting Trump's civil rights, but this was before Harmeet Dillon. Right?
It was all of this was before Harmeet Dillon. I mean, I believe it or not, Harmeet Dillon and I went to the same law school, not at the same time, but close enough. And I will tell you, she is a bulldog out there. She's getting crap right now because she's the one who essentially got the DEI taken out of the University of Virginia. When it comes to civil rights, and you have someone who's going to follow the law and make sure that the wrongdoers actually pay a price, it's a godsend that she's in the DOJ.
Yeah. Here's something else from Chuck Grassley. According to Chuck Grassley, new records reveal that the DOJ, these records provided by the DOJ to the Senate Judiciary Committee Chair Chuck Grassley, offer a behind-the-scenes look at how the top leadership during the Obama-Biden administration repeatedly interfered to prevent DOJ prosecutors and FBI agents from investigating the Clinton Foundation's financial dealings. We knew this. We know this. We know that the Clinton Foundation, there's so many questions about the Clinton Foundation. And I'm curious as to, all of this is probably going to come to light, I would assume. Do you think all of this will eventually come to light, at least in the next 3 years?
Well, I think it's all going to come to light. I mean, if you didn't know the Clinton Foundation was nothing more than a super PAC to make her president, then you haven't been watching politics. But whether it's the Clinton Foundation, one second, or Hunter Biden's laptop, they use the DOJ to protect those in power, not to actually execute the laws of the nation.
Yeah. He says on 111 days before the 2016 election, an agent with the FBI's Criminal Investigative Division ordered that based on the sensitivities surrounding the Clinton Foundation, agents were prohibited from issuing subpoenas, conducting interviews, or sharing information related to the case with other offices so as to avoid creating any impression we are investigating the Clinton Foundation or the Clintons. FBI headquarters in November of 2016, under the leadership of Andrew McCabe, stepped in to block the Clinton Foundation investigative team from accessing potentially incriminating evidence. I'll shut off your microphone so you can hack as much as you like. That was me 2 weeks ago, so feel free. Anyway, stop them from accessing potentially incriminating evidence located on the laptop of Anthony Weiner. Huma Abedin's then husband. And they recommended that the information instead be routed to the FBI's mid-year investigative team. After the investigation was opened the following year, Maine justice holdovers from the previous administration, this is 2017, allegedly provided prosecutors in the Eastern District of Arkansas with documents that omitted information regarding DOJ and FBI leaders' interference. So they covered their tracks as they went along, but it's all coming out. And what bothers me is they're so sure that even if it does come out, nothing's going to happen.
Well, because the legacy media won't pick up on it because they're in the tank for the DNC and they're nothing but handmaids. But what happened to that talking point? Remember, I talked about projection. No one's above the law. Apparently, if you're a Democrat in power, you are above the law. And why do you think Act Blue is never going to be looked into very seriously? Because it would take years to do that. Because who's Huma Abedin's current husband? Oh, right, little Soros. So, I mean,
right.
My God, all you got to do is just go around her, because the Democratic power players that are actually breaking the law or seriously violating it will be somewhere in her orbit, including Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. And by the way, Mangle, thank you for joining us. Glad you're here. Glad you could make it. So I want to go to one last thing I want to get to here. Can we talk about this Brown University thing? So I don't know if you saw, did you see I didn't watch the whole press conference, but, bits and pieces, because it was literally nothing. It was nothing. So we know that this guy came into the class, and we don't know if, the building was open or the classroom was unlocked, but you need a card. You need like a pass to swipe into all the buildings at Brown. So this person had to have had a pass, or did somebody hold the door for him? We don't know. We don't know if he swiped in. The cameras on campus weren't hooked up to the police's first crime thing, like so that they could follow somebody if there's a problem at the university. The sirens that for some kind of an emergency on campus that you should shelter in place didn't go off. They were never activated. Now we're seeing across the internet that apparently, and it's Eric Doherty was the first one that I saw that broke this, that apparently a free Palestine activist, Mustafa Karbouk, was a part of Brown's Center for Middle East Studies page. Now they have a before shot of him on the page, and now when you go to that link, the page is gone, and it says page not found. So he's been scrubbed from the website. And she was asked about that during the press conference. And she goes, oh, I don't know anything about that. You don't know that people were on your website. Now they're not on your website. And he supposedly walked into the room and yelled something. Everybody says, several people said he yelled something, but they're not telling us what he yelled. Like, they're not giving us anything. One kid was interviewed and he said, I walked in there, I looked him right in the eye and I thought, this is the moment I'm going to die. But the guy didn't shoot him.
Yeah, something's rotten in Denmark here. Two things. This is an oddity that this Brown's coming up. I actually went to Brown University for one semester. And I will tell you the fact that—
Did they throw you out or did you leave voluntarily?
I left voluntarily. Got a 4.0 actually when I was at Brown. What I will tell you, which is ironic, is the camera's not being hooked up. Does not surprise me at all, because the whole place needed an upgrade even back 20 years ago. I mean, great school, but oh my God, is it like falling apart. Now, it's something else. I'm going to throw something else in this equation. If you watch the 6 minutes of footage, silent footage that they tried to show, what did strike me, and again, I don't know this, but I'm just looking at the man, we're going to assume it's a man, the man that they showed that is supposedly the person of interest, based on how they dressed and how they held their arms behind them, I'm going to suggest that that's not an American. That looked like somebody—
because they stand with their hands behind their back.
Exactly. It was more of a European, Middle Eastern.
Yes.
It apparently is somebody who's probably over the age of 40. Just based on what I saw in the limited time I've been in two district attorneys' offices. That on top of everything else. The scrubbing of the website, that's a little too convenient by half. I agree. Something's linked there. But what this is all telling us is it's not fitting the leftist narrative that it's some crazy Trumper who came running in there to shoot up the place. I think that's why you're starting to see all these different things, and people aren't asking questions. I think eventually, though, the FBI is going to start asking those questions.
Yeah, I agree. Now, according to Eric Doherty, his archived what is this page? This is his archived X page, says that this guy is from Lebanon and it has reportedly been deleted. His profile on X has now been deleted too, according to, again, to Eric Doherty. I did not have time to look it up, but it does say he's IR and anthropology student at Brown University, but with the Middle Eastern studies. So it's maybe this is an older.
And maybe this is directly linked to something that we, don't talk about all that often, but it's a tie-in to Bondi Beach there in Australia, is the rise of anti-Semitism. Now, the people that were killed, I don't know that she was Jewish per se, but it's also one of these things, whether Jewish or not, what you seem to see with the Middle Eastern or a lot of these other, what I'll call socialists, is they want to end Western values. And the one thing that you see, young Republicans standing up for is, why shouldn't I be proud to be an American? Why shouldn't I have national sovereignty? And that is a real, thorn in the side of those who want to turn this place into a socialist paradise, because you've got to end that. And when I look at universities today, because I've sat on a faculty or two, one thing that I recognize is crazy bonkers left as many of the professors are, the administrators at those universities are even worse.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that this is this guy. They got the first guy wrong too, so who knows? This is just all speculation. And I don't want to paint someone with a brush if that's not who it is. That's not fair. This is out there, and I'm not casting aspersions on this guy at all. Who knows? Maybe he left the university and he's no longer, with the Middle Eastern studies, and, he's gone. And that's why the page was taken down. I just find it odd that the president of the university is like, oh, I don't know. She knew nothing. She knew absolutely nothing. Now, Laura Loomer, to really go down the rabbit hole here, take out your tinfoil hats, kids. Here we go. All right. She broke the news, and this is true, that a professor of nuclear science and physics, Nuno Lorio, was just shot and killed at his home in Brookline, Massachusetts on Monday evening. He is Jewish and pro-Israel. Police say the shooter is on the run. This comes after the shooter at Brown University on Saturday, where the professor who usually occupies the study room that was shot up is Jewish and pro-Israel.
Go ahead.
Wait, hold on. So the question is someone ambushing elite universities on the East Coast? Is now someone else posted a piece from an anti-Israel website that issues kill lists offering $100,000 bounties on the heads of Israeli academics worldwide.
None of that surprises me. Let me just give you an example in the United States, put some numbers to this. I believe that 70% of the religious hate crimes in this country are targeted at Jews. Remember, I believe it. Think about the firebombing of the Pennsylvania governor's mansion. Here's a guy's a Democrat, and you actually have another Democrat firebombing the Democrat because they're Jewish. I mean, the rise of anti-Semitism is absolutely insane. And as bad as it is in America, it's even worse abroad in Europe and the Middle East. But I'll tell you something else. What you see a lot of Middle Eastern money, whether it's Qatar or other places, going into a lot of the elite universities, whether it's Cornell or Northwestern. And then you start to see the rise of anti-Semitism on those campuses. If you look back when the Trump administration was going over it, and you said to yourself, okay, Columbia, Northwestern, etc., you started to see, which they won't show the records for, is how much foreign money they've taken in from the Middle East.
Oh, absolutely. And Qatar especially. Qatar's not our friend. I don't care what they say. They're playing both sides of this fence. They were harboring the heads of Hamas, or letting the heads of Hamas live in Qatar. So in luxury while their people are starving. So
I'm not disputing anything you're saying. They are definitely playing both sides against the middle, which is why I always find it funny that it's the meeting place for everybody who wants to hash out a deal. And it doesn't seem like they won't, there's nobody that they will refuse when it comes to harboring them.
Well, I guess it's a business.
I'm just surprised Osama bin Laden didn't go there instead of Pakistan.
Maybe he did play for the basketball team.
There you go.
Now, someone else posted raw alerts. Apparently, in 2024, Mustafa Karbok wrote something called "I'd Hear the Voice of My Ancestors Calling: From the Camps to the Campus." It was written in August of 2024. Blog series of Genocide in Gaza, student essays, Brown University encampment 2024. And it is, I didn't have the time to read the whole thing, but it is apparently, he talks about, being on the University of Brown, and talking about the encampments that they had and all of that. And, he talks about his feelings, vexed relationship with hope and all this other stuff. And it's been called a manifesto. Now, I don't know if I would go that far. He was a rising sophomore at Brown in 2024, considering concentrating in international and public affairs and socio-cultural anthropology. So in other words, he was going to have a job at Starbucks when he got out. He is a third-generation stateless Palestinian refugee born and raised in Lebanon, having attained a scholarship to attend UWC, Maastricht, and then Brown. He has led in and continues to help with community building initiatives and social change roles. He brings his activism and identities into academic spaces and engages in activist scholarship. Mustafa is also highly motivated by questions of indigeneity. I've never seen that word before in my life. Justice and inclusion, and is particularly interested in the intersection of queer studies with Palestinian studies.
I don't know how those two are even compatible.
I don't either.
I'm going to say something about Palestine real quick that doesn't often get said, and that is, regardless of your feelings about Palestine, etc., there's a reason why when that war broke out, that none of the other countries would take in Palestinians. Egypt wouldn't, Lebanon wouldn't, everyone in the area wouldn't. Why? Because they all know that Palestinians, by and large, on average, not individual, on average, are the very people that are going to cause problems in their own nation.
Yeah, 100%. What do you think the most
secure
secure
America
world?
We should be taking when your neighbors are like, hey, we don't want these guys, they're that bad. Why the hell are we even talking about, even thinking about taking them in? We should never be thinking about that.
100%. The most secure border in the world is the border between Israel and Gaza. Between Egypt and Gaza. And there's a reason for that.
Exactly. It's not like the Egyptians don't want to kill the Jews either. They're just like, these people are like Tasmanian devils. I don't want to be any part of them.
And it's so true. And what's interesting is the parts of the West Bank that are Palestinian controlled, they're controlled by the Palestinian Authority, not Hamas, Palestinian Authority. They could have attacked Israel on October 7th as well and given Israel on both sides. And they didn't. They just went to work. They didn't. So that says a lot that, like, I love whenever these people are like about, Palestine, and I just say to them, where is Palestine? And I never get a response.
They don't know. And the problem is that I've long said this, because this is the tie-in, not just Judeo-Christian thought, but the tie-in is that, okay, this is the only democracy, so to speak, in the Middle East, and basically overcome that, because it becomes about the erosion of Western values. The one thing you do see in Israel is Western values, which you don't 100%. See anywhere else. And whether it's Western thought of government, and my favorite is when they go, oh my gosh, you're committing genocide against the Palestinians. I go, if they're committing genocide, it's the worst genocide I've ever seen, because the Palestinian population is grown by leaps and bounds. I mean, apartheid?
Oh, yeah.
Apartheid. That's my all-time favorite. I'm like, wait a minute. There's Palestinians in the Israeli government. How many Israelis are in the Palestinian government? Oh, wait, zero. All of it is bunk. And, when it comes to these anti-Jewish tropes, it's amazing, though, because of social media, TikTok, etc. When you look at people under the age of 45, they believe in more anti-Jewish tropes than people over the age of 45.
Of course they do, because they were kept purposely stupid. They were, and I'm sorry, but yes, that generation is stupid, but I don't blame them for it. They were programmed. They were not taught anything. They weren't taught how to think. They were taught what to think, which is why I think they're so angry, because as soon as you confront them with something that makes them have to think, that challenges their feelings, they can't process it. So they just lash out. They're like cornered animals. And also, can I just say, white liberal women are just a scourge on the world. I mean, white liberal women, we need to find a way to not allow them to vote or get out of the house for like 3 years. And I think we could clean a lot of this up.
Throw in
that's just,
college-educated white liberal women, and you might be right over the target.
there you go. Manglemush regarding Trump and Reiner says, a murder is a murder, and to revel in anyone's death is degrading to yourself. I agree. I do agree. So, all right. So I think did we hit everything? I think we did it. I think we hit everything that I wanted to hit. Is there anything we didn't hit that you think needs attention?
There's a lot of things out there. Trust me, the news cycle will change in the next 72 hours, and I'm sure we'll be talking about a million more things. All I know is that we're coming to the end of 2025, and I hope that 2026 is even better.
Well, 2025 was not a great year for me. So
this
year can go.
Improvements too.
it was fine. It had some good ups, but for the most part, there was a lot of death for me in 2025. Just not good. So I could really, I can only get mass cards from the nuns for so long before they figure that they're thinking I'm a mass murderer. So I gotta leave Sister Mary and the Good Salesian sisters alone for a little while. But one quick question: the end of the year, the temporary Obamacare tax credits expire, and Democrats are smart. Once again, they have painted Republicans into a corner because it's the Republicans' fault for not coming up with a better plan. Well, if you don't like our plan, what's your plan? And for the past 10 years, Republicans have sat with their thumbs up their butts doing absolutely nothing and are shocked by this sudden turn of event and have no plan at all. So what happens here?
As I saw one congressman from New Jersey recently say, I believe it was Jeff Van Drew, who said the only thing harder than world peace is actually solving America's healthcare problems. That said, I'm afraid they're going to fall into a trap. I'm afraid that they're going to give extra life to the subsidies. My issue is, which they should never do, Trump's right. Health savings accounts, give it straight to the individual. Let's cut out the insurance companies. I mean, there's a holy triumvirate of awful things within the healthcare industry. My concern is making sure that you put curbs in there on the subsidies at the minimum if you're going to give in, which they're going to do, and so that you get rid of the fraud. I mean, that's the biggest problem right there. It's already they broke it. They have no interest to do it. Remember, Obamacare was never supposed to work. It was supposed to be the Trojan horse to single payer.
Absolutely.
And they're winning every single time. The problem is when you look at the polls, okay, you realize that Democrats by double digits are favored on healthcare always over Republicans. I can't explain why that is, but it is. And that's including what they've gone up by double digits since 2014, just the premiums alone. I mean, because I do individual healthcare coverage, and I know exactly how much it goes up. And I'm going to tell you, in the last 4 years, it's skyrocketed, even with those subsidies were nothing more than masking a large problem.
But here's the thing. The reason they win is because they give stuff to people. Oh, we feel your pain. Here you go. And people don't like the HSAs, which George W. tried to bring in, but Democrats voted him down on that because they wanted to keep control of healthcare. Lawyers, no offense, should not be telling doctors how to run their industry, right? Just like painters shouldn't be teaching brain surgeons how to run theirs. I just that lawyers should not be telling doctors and healthcare providers how to provide healthcare. It's not their job. They shouldn't be doing it, but they took it over and they totally screwed it up. So here we are.
The insurance companies, the actuaries are just as bad too, because there's nothing not for profit about insurance companies. I mean, I agree with you. There's so much wrong with it, but I mean, they don't even try to get one thing right. They just continue to duck and cave because it's more politically expedient for the next election. And unfortunately, no one's ever going to put their foot down. Trump's trying to push them in the right direction, but we'll see.
They're just useless. I'm sorry, but the Republicans are useless. There's a couple things they can do. First of all, take Congress off their super special private and Cadillac plans that we pay for and put them on the exchanges. That's it. The Republicans should put it up for a vote and force the Democrats' hand and weed out the Republicans who don't want it either. Let's see who you are.
When they realize how bad it is, they'll have a better understanding of how to fix it. I see two birds, one stone right there.
Exactly. Number two, it should be portable. It should be mine. The government doesn't give me money for my auto insurance. So why the hell are they giving me money for my healthcare insurance? Why is my neighbor paying for my MRI? I don't understand that. But once you give people money like that and the government gives them, you can never take it away. And that's why they made those subsidies temporary, because they knew damn well that they thought they were going to be in power right now, and they could just shove it through and just keep increasing it until it's just government run healthcare. That's what it is.
And then the messaging sells itself. They just want to kill your grandmother. They just want to kill you. I mean, it's the biggest shell game scam on the face of the earth. Unfortunately, real people's lives depend on this.
Right. And we all know it, and Republicans can't counter it for whatever reason.
Oh, you got to get rid of the filibuster.
No, I agree with you on that. Get rid of the filibuster. And they're such scared little chihuahuas, right? They're so scared and so, I don't want to get rid of it because of people purple. I may not get reelected. Term limits. There you go. You don't have to worry about it. We're done. Term limits, put that filibuster, and put Congress on the Obamacare exchanges, solves the whole problem. And Republicans can do that. They just got to find someone with a set of balls. So they need a woman to do it, and because the men are too worried about being reelected. They need one of the women who don't care, who just like, fine, I don't care. And it would have been Marjorie Taylor Greene, but I don't know what happened to her, who will just put it out there and go, let's go. Let's put our money where our mouth is. Let's see who is for. If the Obamacare exchanges are so great, we should have no problem going on it, and we'll save the American people money. Why don't you want to do it?
Or you can bring it full circle how we started this. What would Nancy Pelosi do? There's your answer.
Thank you. Right there. Perfect. That's why I love you. Thank you so much for joining me. I am so happy you're here. Thank you. And happy Merry Christmas, everybody. We're going to do a podcast next Tuesday because I'm working for the next 2 weeks straight. So nobody gets time off. If I'm working, nobody gets time off. But thank you. You can follow Ford O'Connell, N-N-E-L-L on X. All right. So give him a follow, and you post where you're going to be when you're going to be on.
Yep. It's FordO'Connell.com.
There you go. FordO'Connell.com. Thank you so much. I'm going to let you go. All right. Have a great evening, and have a Merry Christmas if I don't talk to you.
You as well. It was a pleasure. Hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks. And please tell Joe Concho I said hello.
I will.
And just tell him I said hi, and I'll see you on Newsmax. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I do appreciate it. Quickly, I'll go over this again real quick. Tomorrow, I will be 4:15 on Newswire on N2, which is Newsmax 2. It's on YouTube. You just go to YouTube, and just look for Newsmax 2. All right. And then you can on Thursday at 7:05, I will be on Wake Up America, and then on Newsmax. And then at 11:35, I will be on National Report. And then on Saturday at 12:30, I'll be on with Rita Cosby on Newsmax. I know, it's crazy. Now, the following week, next week, I will be 6 to 9 a.m. every day except Christmas. I'm on Breitbart News Daily on Sirius Patriot Channel. All right, which is Sirius Patriot Channel 125. Then from noon to 3, I am Rob Carson on Newsmax Radio, and that is nationally syndicated. And you can go to WCBM.com and you can listen just right there, or you can go to TuneIn and you can look for Rob Carson Show, not the Rob Carson podcast, but the Rob Carson Show. That's noon to 3. Next Monday, I'll be back on the Chris Salcedo Show. So my schedule is going to be crazy, but I am going to, I'll post it on X and Facebook and everywhere else. All right. So we'll do that. So have a great day, a great week. God bless. And I will see you back here on Tuesday on Mary Walter Radio. Bye. There we go.
Walter Radio on the air. Tonight strap in. She's on the air. Oh, 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 beware. Coming at you now. Mary Walter Radio on the air. Tonight strap in. She's on the air. Oh, 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 beware. Come